Okay, perfect. So let me get this out of my way. I have so many things up. I just launched a course today, so everybody's calling. Okay. And we will get it sharing. All right, can y'all see the PowerPoint? Okay. I'm going to just go to, here we go. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, and it's presentations. Everybody has to do them. And let's be honest, we pretty much all are using PowerPoint or its equivalent in some way, shape, or form. The problem is that people are kind of tired of PowerPoints. So we have to learn how to use what we have, which is our cheapest and most often produced tool, to still excite people in some way. And a lot of these tips are just very small tips that will make a difference. And some of it's more just about making it easier so that when what people see on your screen is impactful, if that makes sense. And it will in a second. So let's get started. Everybody hates bullets. Well, not really. The problem is bullets are great. Bullets are wonderful for organizing. Use the bullets. The problem is nobody wants to see a whole PowerPoint of 50 slides full of bullets. So instead, when we're possible, we want to use graphics instead. People are very visual now. We're in an age of TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook. Everything is a picture, you know? So if you can have a picture, what better way to say something, you know? And the reality is that there are images, and I'll share some information about that you can get off the internet, and they are free. Like right there in that corner, it says freepik.com. That is a site I recommend for getting images like this that are very impactful. There's also images when you go in your PowerPoint itself, when you search in there, you can actually, it automatically checks the box to obtain images that don't have copyright on it. So you go to insert your pictures and it says online, it will sort through all the images to find images that are not copyrighted. So do be careful with copywriting of things, even though you're using it for educational purposes. I know a lot of images that I look for often are of people, like photographs of people in offices, because we do compliance courses, or things that are more office centered. And almost all those pictures belong to some company who markets that's their thing. They get people dressed up and pretend to be in office and then sell those pictures. You've seen them on packages like $29.99. So there are other pictures around there, and we'll talk a little bit about where to get them. But also you can draw inspiration from these pictures. It's not impossible to create your own things, even if you have to piece them together. And by piece together, if you change it substantially, then it's not the same thing. And so you could consider it something that is more so yours and free to use. And so that's the thing. You can be inspired by some of these things. So I could have done this a little bit differently. Maybe it wouldn't look as great as this free picture that someone has obviously more skill than I to present, but it's possible to translate that in a different way. So let's talk a little bit more about what else we can do. This is probably the biggest rule and the hardest one to do, especially with what I do, which is legal things. Those are very long and it's hard to, or you feel compelled to put everything together, but don't. Less is more. 3 bullets is really all you want in a slide. So that means you're going to have to kind of go outside of your need to be comprehensive in a slide and think about how you can break things down to subtopics. So let's say I had like some horrifically long regulation. I'd have to find subtopics to break it down. I will make you aware that when you create multiple slides, don't have the same title. So that's why I'm saying you have to reorganize how you're presenting the information, because if you end up with a bunch of slides that just say the same title, continued, 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 one, people get bored, but also it is inaccessible for a screen reader. It will get very confused by all that because it can't distinguish, and they're all going to say continued, because that's all you can put. Because I used to do that before I became very aware of how the screen readers work. So again, if you have something big, break it down into manageable chunks and then do subtopics so you can communicate things effectively. The shorter that you have the information on the screen, the more people pay attention. And what you're doing is really giving yourself this presentation as a guideline for what you're going to talk about. So nothing that I'm saying to you right now is actually on this screen in terms of, the details. So the details kind of have to reside in your brain or on note cards or some other mechanism. But your goal is to be impactful with your big message. And the big message here is less is more. And obviously you see the picture here does communicate that. And there's a variety of ways of doing that. That's obviously a well-designed way, but you could definitely do, a big thing and a little thing and put less is more, So there's a lot of different ways that you can communicate this information, but 3 bullets will make sure that your audience is going to stay on message to what you're saying. So just think about how you can subdivide the information so that you can make it easy for them to process. Watch your words. So you only want to use nouns and verbs. Don't use a bunch of adjectives. Try to keep it short. If you've ever listened to what you're saying or read over what you're writing, the shorter and more, it's actually got like a lyrical component to it. So if you just use a lot of nouns and kind of like a resume, that's a good example. So when you're writing your resume, how you put the verb of actualization of what you're doing and it's impactful, that's the way you want to write your slides. Don't make it a very long sentence, make it very short. Again, the PowerPoint is supposed to guide your presentation. It's not supposed to say everything that your presentation's about, because that's where you'll lose your audience. You're going to get them stuck in the weeds. So keep it short, watch your words, try to be using energetic words, active verbs. Again, you don't need any adjectives. You'll add that when you're speaking about the topic itself. So let's see. Okay, so here's bullets on the left and an actual image on the right. I think we would all agree we'd rather see an actual image on the right and have someone talk about the details and be able to say, hey, can you provide me with something else? And you can always send your audience a supplemental information. So sometimes what I will do is in the notes of the PowerPoint, which you can view by just yanking up the bottom of the PowerPoint, you can add notes in to say exactly your entire script. So even though you only have this migratory pattern of birds image up, your notes will contain everything you want to say. Again, you're communicating to your audience, but you have to keep them energized and focused on what you're saying. So if you put so much information in words and all they're doing is reading and all you're doing is reading it back to them, you will lose them completely. So again, we want to try to figure out a way to put this information in a visual approach. This is the other thing, you're breaking down bulleted information into various slides. So there's a boring one. It's a bunch of information about Canada versus the US. It's 10 bullets, I think, and then a big bold thing at the bottom, like this is the conclusion we've drawn. Well, instead, split it up in subtopics. What information can you say? And again, even though I'm saying there's 3 bullets on each slide, you really could just have one statement on each slide of value and then speak to those statements. That's what'll get your audience thinking about things further. And you may even have questions because you spend a little more time on some topic that happens to be something that someone's interested in. And again, I'm going to suggest that you may have questions that you can't answer. So always be prepared for that by saying, if I don't know it, I'll find out and I'll get back to you. Because no one can be an expert on everything, and don't let that throw you. Because sometimes the first time that happens to you, it really could throw you during a presentation if you're really focused on what you're saying and someone asks you, well, this very detailed question that you weren't thinking of, because you can't guess everything. Just say, that's an excellent question. Let me speak to you offline about that. And then if anybody else is interested, send me an email and I'll share that information. And that way you keep your presentation moving. But again, you've been able to subdivide everything so everyone remains interested. This one is probably my favorite. These are just 4 statements about Brian, but look how much more impactful that is when you divide that in that way. And those are all interesting images, and they're really things not only that will draw your temporary attention, but things you'll remember. You know, you'll remember Brian loves his dog. Brian loves to eat, you know, things like that. Those things that resonate in people's memories are what are going to drive your engagement level on these presentations. And it also will make it so people are interested in sharing, and they'll probably provide some feedback. Well, I would do it this way. So I might ask y'all, don't you think that's much better? You know, what kind of information would you share that you could break down in that way? It's like you could divide a department like that and compare all the people in a department like that. This is our department. Jennifer likes to exercise. Jennifer likes to travel. Shara likes to spend time at the beach. Shara likes to go work out, you know, things like that, where you compare and contrast are also good ways of putting information and sharing them succinctly, but effectively. This is probably my favorite because it's something that I really wasn't that aware of. So a lot of this, and this is one of those things I really have to work on, is the use of the rule of thirds. So your eye naturally gravitates to the intersection. So you see that those cutout lines. So if you could put something right in the middle between all those points, that is where you're going to get the most impact in terms of any type of visual image. So like if I had a dog picture and if I put it far here on the right, it's not going to draw people's attention as much as if I expand the dog image and put it right there between all those things. It'll catch and everybody will be like more interested in it. So our brains work a certain way that we're not even aware of. And this is one of those ways where our focal points merge right there, and that grabs our attention. So it's an underlying way to engage people automatically, and they won't even realize. Do not disturb, sorry. So again, look at those grids, the rule of thirds. There's more links at the end of the presentation. I will send the presentation out so you can explore that a little bit further, because I think it takes a lot of practice. I mean, you can kind of make that and then just get into the habit of looking at that as you're planning your presentations. But you see how just that little tree could mean so many things. And that's another thing I wanted you to think about when you're looking at images. It doesn't necessarily have to be an obvious what the image is trying to say. You could speak and define what the value of that image is. Like this could be a slide on resilience. Look at that tree. There's nothing else that survived but that one tree. How strong is that tree? Don't we all want to be like that tree? Don't we all want to stand strong against everything, against the elements, and be the winner? So really, it's a lot about how you can use the image to support what your message is. But you can make your message whatever it is. And you can choose an image and kind of, I want to say change it, but kind of finesse it so the image works with your presentation. And the more, not offline, but the more that you use images that people wouldn't expect, the more engagement you'll get, because people really will think about things as to what they can do and how that impacts them personally. Design templates. There are design templates, and there's a design feature that you can enable. If you don't know how to do that, just let me know. You can email me at jennifer.lewis@usm.edu, and I'll go over that with you. But those designs will, once you implement it, suggest how you should design things. But like in this one right here, this one is just one of those smart art pieces that I put together and use the smart art to create 3 links. And these are different templates that you can access outside of your PowerPoint presentation. One is Design Pickle. And so when I send the links out, you'll see that you can go there. There's a variety of templates. You can download templates. Slide Carnival also has free templates. And Microsoft actually has more templates than the design improvement that they've added within PowerPoint. So again, there's a lot of avenues to draw inspiration from, if not download the actual template itself. And these are places you can download the entire template, but it might also give you ideas of how to build your own template. So please feel free to do that, because that always gets the best templates. Again, one of the things you're going to find is that there are a lot of companies that make stock images, is what they call them. So stock images are the images that we always need for courses of people doing things in offices. So to avoid copyright infringement, and because those usually have watermarks, you can go to Creative Commons. Creative Commons just has it where you can search, and it has everything that has uses without a license. You can also filter your images in Google so they don't contain copyright restrictions. And so when you go, I'm not sure what's beeping. You'll see on the Creative Commons website that there's all these little symbols. So each of them tell you whether or not you can use it. So right here, you can't use it to make money, but we wouldn't be using it for that. And most of these right here are telling you that you can use it, but then you have to like make sure that you attribute it to the author, and it explains to you exactly how you can use these things. But it will actually let you use them as long as, most often than not, as long as you put who the person is who created the original image. And it explains for you how to do that on the Creative Commons site. So keep that in mind. That's probably the best way. But I also liked this little image. This breaks it down. So right here, if it has the CC, the person, the no dollars, and the equal, you can share it however you want. You do have to mention the author, and don't change it, and don't make money. This is probably the easiest way to see all those images. And then right here, if you want to share it, you can remix it, you can make money, but you have to mention the author. So there's all different ways, but in some way or shape or form, you can use these images there in Creative Commons. And that's the goal of Creative Commons, to make it so you don't have to buy a subscription. Because I don't know about y'all, but we don't have a lot of money to buy a stock image subscription for like hundreds of dollars. And we don't use that many that it really would be worth it. So please do keep that in mind. Again, I will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint, so you'll have all this handy when next time you go to make your own presentation. So this is actually how to cite if you're trying to give credit to someone who's giving you a Creative Commons image: the title, the URL, the type of license. So it's pretty simple, and that's all you usually have to do. This is my favorite thing though, the Google Images. So the Google Images, if you go to images, you enter the search term and click on the images. And then you go on the tools right there. And then you go usage rights and Creative Commons licenses. It only brings up images that have Creative Commons licenses. And this is the thing I didn't realize. So this is a lot better, because I was trying to do the search to add all those different things in there to try to get it to search through the filters. But of course, there's always free stock sites. So these are the three that I use most often: Pexels, Unsplash, and Creative Commons Openverse. These are all sites that you can go to and pull things off of. They're very well aware of using that. They're trying to potentially get you to buy something, but you don't have to buy things to use most of their images, but there's always the option to upgrade. And if they draw you there, you might find something that you want. The same thing, I don't know if you all have used Canva, the design platform, where you can buy a certain thing, and all the best things are the things that you have to pay like $1 for, but in that case, it's just $1. This might be a little bit more, but they have a lot of free stuff. So I think you'll be pretty good with just the free stuff. And so you'll have all these sites in the presentation that I'm sending out. These are 3 other sites that have it, and these are a little bit more off the beaten path. So the Library of Congress has some images that belong to them that they're willing to share. WordPress Openverse, the Creative Commons site, and then Wikipedia also has a commons site. So again, these are copyright-free places to get more images. And there's all sorts of images. It's a lot of images. You wouldn't really think about how many places you can find these. So I've been talking more about pictures of things, but you don't necessarily have to put information in terms of pictures. Sometimes it makes more sense to use infographics, like you can use in Canva, Smart Art, which is a feature of PowerPoint, and the little icons that really we don't use that much, but they are part of the PowerPoint. So that is something you can use, and it can be impactful because you can make those bigger icons. They're rather little to start, but they do stretch out fine. They're vector graphics, so you can make them much bigger and much more impactful. So if you'll go to your insert and your icons, you can search for icons, and that might be a good way. I'm going to give you an example of something you can use them for. If you're doing something where you're trying to communicate the number of people, the number of animals, or the number of something, there might be an image of people or animals or something like that. So it might be good for communicating numbers in a way that's less dull, because just a bunch of numbers are not going to be impactful. And I think all of us have seen a lot of graphs. So if all your presentation is numbers, it may be better to vary it between numbers and some icons and some pictures rather than everything being graphs, because that's a lot, especially if you're not speaking to a scientific audience. I think you have a lot more latitude to use some icons to make it interesting. You can also find free icons, and I hadn't really thought about that because I know you can probably make some, but you can find some at these two sites. So the Noun Project and Icon Monster, and that has a wider variety of icons. So that would expand the scope of what you can use an icon for. It was far broader than I had thought of. So somebody took some time to think about what you might need an icon for. So definitely look at those in the future, because they can put a little bit of zing to your presentations. SmartArt, I love, and I have a little tutorial on using SmartArt, but basically you click on that and then it has different types of SmartArt. Some of them are hierarchies, some of them are workflow type situations. I've used it to make some org charts if you're doing a simple org chart. But basically you just click there and select what you're wanting. But there's a link here that you'll be able to use when I send you the video, the PowerPoint, that has a video that goes over it in detail. So it kind of explains each type of communication option for the SmartArt so that you can see how to best select the one that will be most appropriate for your data. So again, it's just insert SmartArt. And the most boring thing can be summarized in SmartArt in a way that makes it a lot more easy to process. And in fact, some of these actually have icons embedded in the boxes that organize the data, so you can link a picture to things. So it adds a little bit more flavor to the information that you're presenting. Infographics, obviously Canva is the king of the infographics, but Piktochart's trying to climb on up there. So those are two ways to present information. So, and that's just basically statistics of some sort, or a flyer of some sort to communicate something. I often see them for like food insecurity and things like that, where you're looking at mass numbers that you're trying to communicate. The infographics are great for that. Education, anything like that. Those infographics will communicate that information well. And Canva, if you use your .edu account, I think you get a little bit more access to things than if you use your personal account. So do use your .edu account, because you get a little bit more, not everything free, but you get a little bit more for your free subscription than you would otherwise. So keep that in mind when you're creating a Canva account. And if you have any questions about Canva offline, let me know. I use that quite a bit, and I'm glad to go over anything with you about Canva. This is my favorite thing though. So what I like to do is something that I call it inspiration delegation. So I get images that are caption free or copyright free, right? And I put them in, and then they don't match together because there are a lot of images together to make something. And so what I have to do is try to figure out a way to combine them. And obviously they're not going to be shaped the same. So to make them join together, what I do is change the background to a color that's in each of those images. But how do I match that? I use that little tool there. So when I go to the eyedropper, I select the eyedropper and I click on the image I already have downloaded. And what it does is it automatically changes the background to the same color. So let me see if I can share how to do that, because I think that would be, that would be a good thing to go over. Hold on one second. Can you still see what I'm doing? Okay, so I'm going to just go in an example here. So I'm going to go over here to insert, and I'm going to go to pictures and online like we talked about. And like I said, automatically it's going to insert things that are copyright free. You know, see right there, it says Creative Commons only. It's automatically doing that. So let's say I want to insert this dog. And actually, let me try two that have a similar color. This dog and this dog in a picture. And they'll both come in there, but they're probably going to come in. Whoops. No, it did only one of them. Sometimes it doesn't cooperate. Where's that other dog? There's the other dog. Okay. So let's say I've got the two dogs. Oh, there's the other dog. It just showed up. Cut. Okay, so I've got the two dogs. I'm going to get rid of all those borders right now. Okay. But now I've got all this white space, right? And get rid of that. So now I'll right click here and it says format background. And then let me move this out of the way. Can you see here in the corner where I'm at? Okay. So I'm going to go to the eyedropper. And I'm going to find the part that I think matches both of them the best. See? And so it automatically has picked the color out of these pictures or out of this picture, but that's the color that's also in this picture. So these guys can meld better. And when you have more pictures, it looks even better. But it tends to make the rest of the picture pop really well. So that's the other thing. So because I'm not good, I'm a little bit colorblind with some of these colors. So for me, this is a godsend because I'm able to go in here and make it look a lot better. I also wanted to show you the designer right here. Here's the designer option. And it's going to tell me what it thinks I should do. So it thinks it looks better like that. Now that doesn't work with the rules of 4. See, but the rules of 4 would probably be something like that, but move them over here. See, so if we're doing the rule of 4 right here, this would be the best way to do it because they're right here across the 4. So if you don't know how to turn on designer, you don't see it, let me know and we'll work on that because sometimes you have to go back here in the file and do it, or sometimes you have to upgrade your version to get it to work. But I like the designer because it gives you a lot of different options. It doesn't seem to follow the rule of 4 necessarily though. But like I said, especially when you're doing something, I like these. See, so it's totally different. It's made a whole different thing that I guess there are a bunch of shapes it's made, but I like that. And then you could always put in some text here and make it jump out. Like, you know, like I did one the other day, say dog food needed, 470 pounds for 70 dogs, or 70 pounds a month. You know, or you could write, I'm hungry, or you could put cat, you know, there's a lot of things you could do, but keep in mind, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but you don't want to make it too busy. You don't want to make it too full of messaging, just one big message. And it might be something even as weird as, if I get it to move. If we can get it to move right. Sometimes something strange like that will catch people's eye. And see, now look that we did that. It changed the designs over here. It thinks that's more impactful. And it's pulling off this color on these dogs, this orange. So it's doing the same thing we did with the eyedropper in a different way. And it's using it to make this piece right here an orange looking color. So PowerPoint tries to help you a lot. So that is the good thing. Okay. All right, let's go back to our presentation. Okay. Let me move this away. When you're trying to optimize your images, there's a way to remember what you're trying to achieve. It's called the BEAR method. Big. We talked about big images, one big image, and just one word could catch your attention. Like it could be like food and just a big face of a sad dog. That would be big. It would be arresting because it would draw your attention, be relevant if we're talking about dog food insecurity. And it would be emotional because we're tied to our animals. So again, the BEAR method, big, arresting, relevant, and emotional. I'm going to reference you. You know how you have those commercials for the dogs? I'm all about the dogs, as you can see. And they have the little music playing, and I think it's like Sarah Bareilles or something, and they're talking about the dogs, and it's so sad. They're so hungry, and you see this little dog in this big cage, and he's just like, help. But it's big, you know, like this little dog in this humongous cage, and you're like, he's never getting out of there. And it's relevant and it's emotional. It's tied to your emotions. You're like, I wouldn't want my dog to be in there. I need to send money for this ASPCA or the Humane Society. So you're trying to do the same thing on a smaller scale. So even though it might not seem like your presentation is, you know, a commercial, it is a form of marketing the education in a way that optimizes its effectiveness. So the more that you make things memorable, the more likely people are going to take something away from them with them long-term that they can use. And obviously we all want to spend our time, our valuable time, on doing something that's going to have a real effect. So let's look at the BEAR list in action. This is the BEAR checklist in action. Let's look at some examples so we all know what to do next time. So that's one idea. So you break your idea into 4 things, and then you put an impactful picture in the center. So it could be like 4 things on my bucket list, or 4 tasks you have to do to be successful. You'll see often the speakers like, what's the guy's name? What is that? Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins like this. Remember, you're your own little Tony Robbins. You're trying to get people really excited, and, you know, you drive them to make change and to affect something. You know, you're trying to drive a message forward that they're going to share with their colleagues. So you've got to get them excited about what you're doing. So this is what you're using. It's really something simple. Honestly, we could all do this. It's just a big circle, you know, and they've gotten a picture and cut it so it fits in the circle. And then there's a line, and there's a line, and there's a text box, and there's a text box. So this is something we could definitely use for inspiration to create something else impactful to any type of message. You just switch the picture out. So keep that in mind. Something like that. The old Home Alone pose, you know? All right, everybody knows that. The Home Alone pose. Because you'd be like I could make this right here. The message could be, our students are hungry. Donate to the food pantry. You know, because that's the truth. We have people every day that come and they're like, I can't feed my kids. You know, I'm a student, help. You know, it can be something from as much as, can you believe it's this cheap to join our gym? You can be fit for $25 a month. Join today. Why pay outside of our university when you can do it right here? So again, the picture can be whatever you want it to be, can be tied to whatever message. You have to learn how to spin it. You have to be a spin doctor, like all those marketing people, publicity people. Michael J. Fox in that publicity mayor show he used to have, he was all about spinning things. Sometimes you can use little cartoons. I mean, that's not out of the realm, but really know your audience. Now, I know y'all have a great sense of humor, so this is good. You know what I'm saying? We could use cartoons and you're not going to be insulted, but I'll give you an example. So some of the courses that we buy, because not all the courses are made by me. Some of the courses that we offer are purchased. And one company has it where you basically program it, and it draws pictures, and it makes pictures of all the people. So instead of like photographs or videos, it's got cartoons. But the problem is that as I assess my audience, which are composed of a lot of faculty members, I didn't think that they would take it seriously because it was kind of silly in a way. And so I was like, sexual harassment isn't really lend itself to being a cartoon. That's not really the way I want them to view it, So that's the thing. So know your audience and know how they're going to consume the information you're providing. But cartoons can be great for different things, like the one at the beginning here when we started the presentation, that's cartoonish in nature, And again, it was just simply telling you don't want to die by bullet points, PowerPoint death by bullet points. That's definitely something we're not trying to achieve in 2023. We've kind of moved away from it, but we're using the same platform, which is PowerPoint. So we have to be careful to not let it lead us astray. And this also highlights the other thing I mentioned about using the template of the PowerPoint to, like an outline, to drive your conversation with your audience. And that's what you should be having, a conversation with your audience. It shouldn't be you reading them what they can read themselves, because they can read it themselves. They don't need your assistance with that. And in fact, I've had people tell other people, and that has been their commentary about what they said, that they read it word for word what was on the slides. And I know that can be hard, but you cannot do that. Even if all you do is just change how you say it, you have to change it, because people can be really insulted by that. And again, know your audience. But when someone reaches a very high degree level, your vocabulary and how you approach them about things can be very important. One person may be flattered by the use of the word doctor before their name, or the use of the word doctor instead of their name, whereas another person may be insulted. So similarly, reading it might be great for some people, but horrible for others. So instead, just try to surmise what the information is and relay it and have a discussion with your audience to see what it is they need. And you should get a feel for that based on who your audience is. And you may need to ask some questions if you're presenting to an unknown group to find that out. But no one wants a word by word discussion for 90 minutes. Again, we've talked about this several times, of not dictating, not reading, using the slides to guide, but not dictate. So it is a conversation. We want you to be fresh, candid, real. I think maybe that's the best way to say it, real. We don't want it to be that you're reading the script, and if something happens, you can't get back on your train of thought, because all you know how to do is read the exact words in order. And if something happens to deviate from that, you've lost your train of thought and you can't complete the presentation. I think we see someone chat. Ooh, one of our speakers said the audience wants to be educated, entertained while being educated. Correct. And I'm going to, what was that word that? Obfuscated. Vocabulary matters too. So the word obfuscated. So we were doing a cybersecurity presentation, and I let the cybersecurity guy handle it, but his audience were our custodians. Okay. They don't even have computers. And he starts talking about IP addresses, and don't forget to obfuscate the data. And I could just see their eyes glazing over. And he just didn't know his audience. And they started raising their hands and asking him how they could set up their wireless router. And did he do that for a service? Because he was going such detail about things they didn't know about. The only thing they knew about is they had a box called a wireless router. That's all they had. And they didn't know about this obfuscate thing. But he was very confusing to them. And so that's the thing. But people do want to be educatained. And it used to be that people would be kind of offended by that and be like, education is not entertainment. It's not supposed to be entertaining, this, that, and the other. But it's not, it doesn't matter what it is it's supposed to be. The goal is really for people to learn. And when people remember things because they're educatained, that is when you are achieving a lot. And that is when you need to continue to go in that direction to make sure that people really gain something from what the information that you're providing. This is probably my next favorite thing, the white space. You have to use it effectively. So here in this slide, you see how that's all there is in here. It's just this one message. So sometimes all you need is just the one message and you speak to it. And the rest of the white space, which doesn't have to be white as this example illustrates, it just has to be one big other color. Because in having that white space open around your messaging, it highlights, this is the important thing I want to convey to you. How effective is it just to see this? Like if instead of this box that said money down, and that's all it said, and then put in the top it said economy. I mean, it's impactful. Whatever you put in this box is going to impact you. You don't even have to put a title, honestly. People will draw their own conclusions, and people will want to, because you've highlighted to them there's something they're supposed to get out of this. And it draws your eyes to the middle. It's kind of in that space again. So think about that. That's a good piece. It's very simple, but it might be a great way to start a presentation or to end it. So here's white space usage. This is a website, and they just want people to kind of draw their attention to this. Not really sure what they're trying to convey here, but this is their website. I think it's a marketing website, if that helps. Like I said, they're creative folks. They're going a different way. This is the other one I hadn't really thought of. Look, visuals are everything, right? So that you've got a forward message, you've got a big image, your bare principles, and then you've got little text that are giving you a secondary message that reinforces your primary message. So look, you could do that with a bunch of text boxes. Because remember, once you click out of the text box, you won't see it. So you could put the same message over and over again in little text boxes, a big image, and a top message. So instead of visuals or everything, it could be sign up today. And then at the bottom could be time is limited or the date. So you can convey many things like this, but look, just these 3 elements will be enough to tie and impact you on a message. And the colors are also important too. You see this jumps out at you. So they've taken the white space and they've used it to convey a message and then put white space as part of the image. But see, it jumps very, very well. Also talk about your voice, because one of the things that is important is not to be monotone and to speak like a real person. No one wants to hear somebody talk like they really are not interested about the presentation. You have to have some tone to your voice. You have to resonate. You have to be excited about what you're presenting about. Again, ask yourself this question. If you're not excited, why would I be excited coming to your presentation? And that is truly the case. I mean, I do this thing called Singo. It's like singing bingo on Wednesday nights, and I host it. So the hardest thing is, because it's like 3 hours, is continuing to seem peppy and up and excited, but that's really what people want. If you hear any of those motivational speakers, you see that's what they're doing. They're so excited to talk to you about today is the day that we're really going to get this done. Come on, guys, you know you can do it. It just takes 5 minutes of your time to change your life, right? We've all heard that. That's the podcast. There's like a million podcasts like that. So you've got to have that same type of excitement, because the more bored you sound, the more tired you sound, the more you sound like you went to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and it is now 9 o'clock in the morning. You're barely awake. You haven't finished your coffee and you're so grumpy. The more people will be lost in translation. Half of what you say won't get out. You'll forget things. You'll just be like, oh, and it'll sound terrible. But be conversational, talk to your audience. We've all gone through the same things. We've all had to present the same things. We've all had to try to figure out how to make something that might not be as interesting at first glance seem really interesting, because in the end, all the information we're sharing is valuable. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sharing it. It's just a matter of people getting to use it. And then you never know. Let's say that this presentation day I give you, and then Christina thinks of something else and adds something to it, you know, and that group of the 3 there, they come up with a different idea, and we go on and on and on and develop more different ideas, because start somewhere. It just got to start somewhere. And we've all done different things. And that's probably our one shortcoming, honestly, is that often we don't all share our learnings from day to day because it's hard to have time to do that. And often that's how you find out something that you would never have known. Because I think I found out about the copyright thing because someone was giving a lecture on it for their presentation as part of their thesis. And I went and listened and I was like, oh, we're supposed to be doing all these things because that's not my field of expertise. You know, you kind of know what you know, but there's a lot more things we need to know to make our lives easier in the long run. And it has made my life easier, being more aware of that. So I've gotten here some videos on tone and changing your meaning with your voice. And this lady's really, really good. She has a very distinct tone. Just the speed at which you say things and where you emphasize a particular word can make all the difference. And like, for instance, like I was saying, the thing I do Wednesday nights, I have to say the same 4 or 5 words of the title of the song 3 different times. So I have to make it different each time, otherwise people get bored. And she talks about this in terms of inflection and intonation. So those are things that you will want to listen to and it'll help you. And it's just practice. It's just knowing that you have to change and vary things so that people will really listen, because often people don't or miss things because you haven't emphasized it enough. So it's about taking that little bit of time to figure out what works best.
What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
So I just wanted to show you this, see how different those 3 things sound. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be that different, but it really is. It's crazy how distinct that is. And this is the one, I think we all know how not to be a robot, but just in case it's not clear, this is actually pretty funny. Avoid robot talk. So please watch some of these. These are really good presenters who put a lot of time and effort into putting these things up on YouTube to try to share their knowledge with others. And I encourage y'all, if there's something you're interested in sharing your knowledge with, let us know. We're always looking for presenters. And if you want to put together something on YouTube, please send me the link. I'd love to see it. I'm all about the YouTube. I pretty much just watch YouTube now at this point. Every once in a while I watch something else, but mostly I just watch YouTube. I love it. It's short, it's sweet. I get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't lose. It's win-win. Oh, this is the add-in one I had. Okay. So this haiku add-in, okay, and there's a link in here, will give you a way to kind of add in like an extra search tool on the right on your PowerPoint. You know how we looked at the insert pictures and those were the things that it was pulling, but it was pulling it up with Bing, right? That's the search tool that's already populated. And we all know that every time we change a browser, it pulls different things. So this haiku is trying to pull a wider variety of things. So it's a little bit easier because sometimes Bing isn't necessarily the best search engine, honestly. I prefer Google Chrome, you know, or, you know, anything else. Bing has the least, I'll be honest, Bing has the least search results of value. I found I have to go further into the Bing to get the information I need. It kind of, if you're looking for off kilter things that you might not otherwise find, Bing might be the way to go. But if you're looking for like the best thing, Google is really good at pulling images. That's why I'm saying Google is usually the way to go. But I like this because I don't have to go outside of it. Since I can't use Google inside the PowerPoint presentation piece, then I'm like, I'll add in this haiku add-in, and then I'll get a little bit more variability to what I'm pulling. And I really like this. This was easy to use. It didn't require you to pay anything. I'm sure the people who are, you know, sourcing the images or something pay something, but you don't pay anything. So definitely give it a try. It's really worked out really well for me. And it's easy to use. It just appears on the right side of your screen, kind of like the designer piece did. And then you put in the term that you want and it gives you some results. And so they seem to be pretty good. The images were a lot better than just the ones I would pull up. And so here's just got the steps. You click the select which image, and it actually tells you how to list the citation to attribute it to the author. So it does that extra work for you. So it takes care of your copyright piece when you use the images from the haiku add-in. So keep that in mind because that saves you from having to sit there and think, what's the title? What's the URL? It's all right in there. And then we have all these references. Like I said, there's lots more to read on these topics. That's probably the best thing. There's always more information. And if you need more information, I have more information as well. That's not even in here. That's just other things I have. So let me know if you need anything else. There's lots to look at. But like I said, this will get you started. And hopefully it will help you to make your presentations more engaging. And, if you want to try the presentation on me, just give me a call, send me an email. I'm game. If somebody wants to start a podcast, I'm ready to be a guest on a podcast. I'm throwing that out there to the world. Nobody has invited me on a podcast. I feel like I'm missing out. I know someone has a podcast, someone. So eventually I'm going to hit upon one person that has a podcast. Because I feel like I would enjoy to be on a podcast and talk about all the things about being, an office professional and all the things that we learn every day and our customer service tips that we could definitely share with other organizations like McDonald's and food places that have less than stellar customer service. Today is my anti-McDonald's and Microsoft day. Yes, probably don't want to get me started on all the reasons why McDonald's is not my friend anymore. We have broken up. We will not be ordering from the app. Yep. So does anybody have any questions? I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned a little bit about how to get your presentations to be a little bit different. And really, in presentation, speak different is great. If you can make people think, if you can make people remember and recall an image or recall an acronym, that's really what people can take away from this and go forward and do something a little bit different that will get their audience captured and they're on their fourth and their fourth. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, wait, there's some chats. Let's see, I'm bad about the chats. I need like a moderator. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I will be sending out the presentation in PDF and in PowerPoint form and the recording. It'll probably take like 30 minutes for the recording to process. And I hope you will join us. We have some other presentations coming up soon. We will have a presentation on self-care, mental self-care. We'll have a presentation on nutrition, and we have a presentation on project management, which I really do hope you'll join us for. It's going to be excellent. Slinda has worked with our presenter on that, and that'll give you some insight how to get all the things that we need done easier using project management principles. And if you're interested in potentially becoming a project manager, it'll give you some of the tools to get you started in that direction in the future, because that's one of those careers that you can study it for. You take a test. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? If you want to send your presentations and we want to collaborate on amping up, I'm available. Just email me. I'm going to put my email address here. And y'all just let me know how I can be of service and how the Higher Education Council can be of service to you. We value our members. We want to make sure that y'all get something out of your membership with us, and that we hopefully inspire you to become more involved on any level, either locally, nationally, or here with us at the Higher Education Council. Yes, I am definitely always here. You know it. You know it, Tonda. I'm always here. I feel like I live here sometimes. And if I was home, I would pop an animal up. I like to pop animals up and scare people and be like, here's a cat. But I'm actually at work today, so there's no cat. I did scare the board. I have to share you. They were like doing some kind of, what was it, Lola? It was some kind of bingo or something. We were talking about animals, and I popped a cat up, and they were like, they were startled. See, you can engage people by startling them. It shows how effective that principle is. They were like, where's the cat coming from? And I was like, I'm at home, so I have cats and dogs. I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all the animals I have. I have to think about it. I'm like, do I have any other animals? No, just lots of cats and dogs. So thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it, everyone. And I will be sending out the certificates later on this evening. So if there's no questions, I'm going to let y'all recoup about 5 minutes of your time.
Thanks,
Thank you so much,
Jennifer.
everyone. Hope to see you again next month.
Thank you.
Let me
All
know
right,
if I
thank
can be
you.
of assistance. Stop share. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye,
It was great.
Janet.
You too. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.